Hello everyone and welcome to another edition of Olsem Wanem. This week we bring you the 1 billion Rising for Justice. The first question you might ask is, what is it all about? It started last year on Valentine's Day when 1 billion people in 207 countries rose and danced to demand an end to violence against women and girls. This year they go on further to demand justice. The second question is, justice to what? Let's take a look.
Our homes are supposed to be the safest place on earth, and for some, it is. Unfortunately, for many women and girls in Papua New Guinea, home is a place of fear and terror due to violence and abuse. Violence and/or abuse can also be met on the streets. A gender analysis in Papua New Guinea, commissioned by the World Bank, states that 70% of women in Papua New Guinea experience violence. Terms like rape, murder and wife bashing are common words which hit the news in Papua New Guinea media.
Earlier, a woman was raped and killed. Her face and genitals were burned by the attackers.
These images were taken last Friday, moments after the woman's body was discovered in a banana patch at the Kamkumung suburb just outside of Ley City. Eyewitnesses say her attackers stripped her, raped her, and then slit her left shoulder with a bush knife.
What actually happened.
The Ley's Metropolitan Superintendent Ivan Lakatani says police are yet to establish links that will lead to her attackers.
In Papua New Guinea, 68% or more than 2.3 million women have experienced violence. According to a report by Health Minister Michael Malabag, 1/3 or 1.13 million were subjected to rape, and 17% of sexual abuse involved girls between the ages of 13 and 14.
The rape of a nurse in her own home triggered the closure of the city's hospital. Staff met yesterday and demanded the arrest of the rapists within 48 hours.
On the women's side, I think it's the sexual violence that becomes very common. And mostly what we hear in the news or media is the rape issues. Now that is the common features around the country, and it is the one that exposed to the public. But there are silent ones which nobody knows, particularly at homes.
Many children in Papua New Guinea are also exposed to various forms of violence and abuse, which includes sexual abuse. Child Fund Australia's report, Family and Sexual Violence in Papua New Guinea, indicates that more than half of all rape victims who go to hospital are aged under 16. 1 in 4 is under 12, and 1 in 10 is under 8.
Health workers in Ley have been providing disturbing statistics about the high number of child sex abuse cases. Taraka Clinic is one of 2 reporting centers. It had until recently a family support center run by Doctors Without Borders. But those affected by child sexual abuse continue to come here. In the last 5 months, 9 children have been referred from Taraka to Anga Hospital for both physical and psychological injuries.
Man is having a problem with mindset.
Baba sa drink beer na boat na. For na time na boat dem kari money golo. Paglo ande mol tugina meri na finisi money na. Mama pigini wog lo complain lo money say dem all come. This remol house na board na paiti mol nati ni no good bla.
Violence kama was one big issue in Chelong. Family na troll country.
Mi presa pirim pen no kutro. Mama na pigini. Time em paiti mi pra. Pigini emino come up natin. Papa step na pigini come up. So time em paiti mama. Pigini isay pirim no kutro.
Violence doesn't only happen to women and children, but also men.
We have men and boys who have been sexually abused and raped, and often the men seem to keep it more secret than the women and children.
Stay with us, more on domestic violence, emotional abuse, and Lifeline when we return. Welcome back. Research has shown that perpetrators who abuse family members often use violence and emotional abuse to control their families.
Domestic violence may start when one feels the need to control and dominate the other. This domination then takes the form of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse.
Alcohol and drug, they're not the cause, yeah, but men and other women, or especially men, yeah, they take it as an excuse to actually create the violence. Yeah, definitely, young people are taking it and abusing themselves. Yeah, and especially drug, but alcohol, it's not an excuse for a man or anyone else to perpetrate violence to the family. It's yeah. So let's not blame alcohol as a contributing factor. Yeah. Men take it to as an excuse to release their frustration.
Particularly the husbands, when they are drunk and influenced, they go home and then force their wives to have a sex with them. And sometimes it's a very degrading situation, and the women find embarrassing to talk to people.
For many women and children in Papua New Guinea, violence is a serious issue that is often faced silently behind closed doors.
Not a lot of them come forward and report. They need a lot of encouragement from other women victims, from women who have gone through the situations and have come out of it, to help them, as well as people like us doing the work to help women realize that the law supports them, gives them the right to report these matters and can assist them to free themselves from these bondages here. And they won't come out and say, I want this reported, I want this talked. So they continue living in that situation for many years. And their children watch and grow up. And so their children believe that that's the right way of living with us in a family, with a mother and a father. So when the child grows up and they get married, the child exactly speaks just like the father or the mother, and does exactly what they see at home.
My name is Helen. I went down to the store to buy food. There was a stranger there. We started fighting and hitting me, and then started biting my lip. He took it off.
My name is Kay. I got married to this guy. He was going out with another lady. We started to have problems. He started to whip me. When I was belted, my little girl, she just stand there on the side and watch us fight. And it's like a nightmare to her.
My daughter has been abused by her daddy. She was examined by the nurses. Then they told me that somebody has been playing with her private part. I just don't want to go back to my husband. I just want to live my own life.
I don't want violence against women today. I want this woman who is experiencing this violence can come out, and then we can join our hands and we can fight for our women's rights.
After the break, the 1 Billion Rising event in Port Moresby this year at the Jack Piddick Park. One Billion Rising began as a call to action based on the staggering statistic that 1 in 3 women on the planet will be beaten or raped during her lifetime. With the world population at 7 billion, this adds up to more than 1 billion women and girls.
According to Mr. Isi Oru from the Family and Sexual Violence Committee, in Papua New Guinea the number of women reporting violent cases has increased much more than ever before.
In terms of reporting, in the past there were not many services. People were accessing, hospitals or health centers, and even the police, and some faith-based organizations. But recent years there's been development in terms of services for women and children, like the family support centers. You have the safe houses, and then you have the family and sexual violence units within the police, and also the sexual offense squad within the police. So women and children are now starting to report cases that are coming in. They are facing. Yeah.
Women are now coming out and speaking more openly on various forms of violence that affects them.
Na me like explain, me like talk, emigam tasolna, gam put him first punch law, I blow me. This la time I blow me and pass. Blood shoot lo nus. Na me kirab no good na me talk. Me make him Wanem. Me put him head lo me go down. Me sit down. His me no give him chance lo me. And me come left, right, center lo me.
About the family violence, because like family violence plenty or la mama mi bla sava kanol semol papa pati mi bla na program lega no or some time or papa sa lucy mol mama na go.
Various campaigns have also been carried out throughout the country to address violence on women and children, such as the National House Cry last year. This year on Valentine's Day, 14th of February, our 1 Billion Rising for Justice campaign was held at the Jack Piddick Park in Port Moresby. This event saw the participation of government, civil society, faith-based organizations and private sector, and individuals rising to end violence against women and children, and promoting male championship in addressing gender-based violence.
1 billion rising for justice. Me talk sorry Olsem. Me come now, look at me now, talking me lo can talk. So me by talk lo want to work me make it. In relation to 1 billion rising for justice. Me looking on man sit down. Plenty time people carry out awareness. When we carry out awareness, the perpetrators are often men. And all the news, everything that come up in media throughout the world in Papua New Guinea, finger Yumi Ogera I point he go long old man. He is a violent person. He is the perpetrator. He is the one who rapes. He is the one who hits women. He is the one who does all these things and violate the rights of other human beings and other people, especially women and children. How do you feel as a man? Men sitting here, how do you feel?
Yeah, the 1 Billion Rising campaign was launched in 2012 in Fiji for Pacific to be part of that campaign, and it started in Canada, and also in other parts of the world. But in the Pacific, we launched the campaign in 2012. The main reason for us being part of that is because it's a campaign that brings together individuals, organizations, whether you're within the government, within the faith-based organization, civil societies, or any individual, coming together to stand and rise, to end violence against women and children. So the campaign strategy is to bring men and boys to be part of the advocacy, and to address women's human rights, and to stand against any other violence that is perpetrated to women and children, and say enough is enough. We're gonna rise and be counted.
In 2013, the Papua New Guinea government passed the Family Protection Bill, which criminalizes domestic violence and gives legislative backing for interim protection orders.
The Family Protection Bill allows neighbours, relatives and children to report domestic violence and gives police the power to remove perpetrators from their homes to protect the victim. Penalties include fines of up to 5,000 kina and up to 2 years in prison.
I found out that the laws in PNG are in place and they are good. They are good. They have been researched and they have been proven to be good. But the implementation part of these laws is my biggest concern.
There are avenues in place for people who are suffering from violence. An extremely important feature of the Family Protection Bill is that it not only protects women and children, but also men. It is a gender-neutral bill that intends to protect men and women, as well as children who have domestic violence in their homes. It is also important to know that there are avenues where you can get help against violence.
In the past, there were not many services. People were accessing hospitals or health centers, and even the police, and some faith-based organizations. But recent years, there's been development in terms of services for women and children, like the family support centers. You have the safe houses, and then you have the family and sexual violence units within the police, and also the sexual offense squad within the police. So women and children are now starting to report cases that are coming in. They are facing, the problems they are facing.
It's simply that we do have a place in which we can be able to handle not all of their problems, but if they are looking for a place or short-term places, our place is always available. And we'll be able to take care of them because we have trained counselors who are brought in particularly for this purpose. And so they are much safer, but we are now looking at something better for a safer place for them, because currently we don't have a security. Security is our problem because some of those husbands are very violent. They come in the steps and because our gate is not locked. And of course this is kind of a public place where everybody comes in here. So we don't really know whether it's a husband, but only when they report to us. Sometimes the police are not helpful. When we wanted them, they say they have no money, no transport. But issue here is that yes, we will accommodate them. We will be able to help them if they need the help.
Men have more of the power in this society. The women suffer a lot because they aren't given a voice or equality in many ways. So we always look to the survivor and the woman to find out, to give her a greater voice. But it does in fact happen to men also. And so we are trying to focus on the whole family. Anyone who's suffering from this violence, we want to give them the proper medicine.
The male advocacy program is a program that involves men to address the issue of family and sexual violence or gender-based violence, and because men are part of the problem, and they are men are they are the perpetrators of violence. Therefore, we have to bring them in to be part of this program, and the program is called Male Advocacy. And I take my cap off for the government for recognizing male advocacy, the program, and we've done a couple of trainings, and the government also has organized themselves and selected men working in the government departments to come together and learn more about what is women's human rights, how can men get involved to address the issue.
The 1 Billion Rising for Justice campaign is a global movement. We now feature 1 Billion Rising campaign from around the world.
Well, it is Valentine's Day like no other.
To mark Valentine's Day, the 1 Billion Rising
1 Billion Rising campaign.
Dünya çapında 1 milyar kadın kadına şiddete
1 billion women will be raped.
Every 2 minutes, somewhere in the United States, someone is sexually assaulted.
próbáljuk támogatni, illetve felhívni a
figyelmet.
Well, 1 Billion Rising is a movement which calls for an end to violence and gender inequality.
The global campaign dubbed 8 Billion Rising.
Somali women in Mogadishu have joined the world in
In every village you will see scenes like these. Then Aklas Road'lo 1 Billion Rising jarıtani.
Birazdan burada kentteki ikinci eylem dansını
1 Billion Rising campaign all in full swing across the world.
Everybody should be here. This is a call for 1 Billion Rising.
Filipinos in London and around the world are part of a campaign against violence towards women.
Jago re jago. India jago.
And that's the end of this edition. Thank you to all who have participated. We'd like to remind you that next month, on Saturday the 8th of March, is International Women's Day. On this day, United Nations women will be advocating for gender equality and women's empowerment. Please keep in contact with us for this event. Also, keep your comments and stories coming via the details showing on your screen. And remember, we are here for you. We'll see you same time next week. Until then, enjoy the rest of your viewing on your #1 station, MTV.